Okay, so our job today is we are going to design a building that we see in our community. So you just really want to brainstorm what buildings you see day to day in your community where you live, okay? So obviously you probably see your house every day. You see your school most days, so you can draw your house, your school. Some days you might see the grocery store. Some days you might see the library. Some days you might see the movie theater or the mall. So you want to pick a building in your community and I want you to draw it. Now, after you decide what you're going to draw, you need to decide what size of paper you should use. So I'm going to have different sizes available. We're not working big at all for this project. So I'm using a small sheet of paper because I'm going to draw just a house on this. But for instance, this piece of paper, I wanted to draw a skyscraper, so I needed a longer piece of paper to show that, okay? So that would be like in downtown St. Louis, my community down there, if I wanted to do a skyscraper. But for this one, I'm just going to do my house. So you always want to start with a pencil and draw light till you got it right. And think about what the building looks like that you're drawing. Okay, so after you draw your piece, we're going to outline it with a Sharpie. And I didn't put in all of my details with the pencil because I thought it might take a little too long. So what I'm doing now is I might go back and add a few more details just with my Sharpie because I trust myself with the Sharpie. If you don't trust yourself, then do it all with the pencil first. So for instance, I'm going to add some brick here on my chimney, and I didn't draw that with the pencil first because I knew I could just do this with my Sharpie. And use our skinny Sharpie. So my big Sharpie was way too big for these itsy bitsy flowers that I'm drawing. So I just switched to a skinny Sharpie. Okay, so here is two different kinds of buildings. So I have my house, that's what I see in my community. I see this every day because I live here. And I forgot I also have a window here. So I'm really trying to think back to what my house actually looks like and put in those details. So there we go, now it's better. And so this is a skyscraper that I would see if I went to downtown St. Louis and got to see all the big buildings. And that's still part of my community as well. It's just a little farther away from where I live. And I don't get to see it every day, but I still live near it and I get to see it sometimes. So you get to choose what kind of building you want. Now from here, we're going to color this in. You're going to have two choices for your coloring. Because it's so small, we don't want to use the big markers. So I do have some skinny markers, but the problem is I don't have red or blue. Hopefully one day I will get those. So I could use the skinny markers if I would like to, and I could color this in. And skinny markers are good because I can just fit into these small shapes a bit better. And I don't have that really fat tip kind of getting in the way and making me get outside of my lines. Okay? Or you can choose colored pencils. And colored pencils are nice because they also have a tiny tip. And I could get into the small shapes with this one. So I just have more control when I choose a smaller media to work with rather than the big clunky ones. Alright, so you want to color yours in. You could even combine the two together. So you could do some parts in marker, some parts in colored pencil if you wanted to. And what that's called a mixed media. You're mixing your materials. Okay. So I want to show you the cool thing with colored pencil real quick. Colored pencil, if you press hard, you can get a nice dark color. You don't want to press too hard that your pencil breaks. And if you press light, you can get a light color. So it almost is like you can get two different colors out of one pencil. I can get a dark blue and I can get a light blue, depending on how hard I push down. So you just want to color in your buildings. So now that I'm done coloring, this one I just used all colored pencil, and this one I used colored pencil and gray skinny marker. So I did mixed media and then just regular. You want to cut these out. So you're going to have to be very, very careful because these buildings are pretty small. So from here, now we need to make these buildings be able to become 3D. Right now they are 2D, that means they are flat. When they're 3D, that means they can stand up on themselves. Okay? So the way we're going to do that is we're going to just put a little tab on the back of it. So my house is small, so I can use actually a small kind of tab. So something just like this might work. And all I would do is fold it. So it becomes kind of like an L shape. And you're going to put glue right here. And that's going to stick to the back of your house and be able to stand up. Okay, so let's put some glue on and let's see if it works. So it's the L shape. I put the glue here. You don't want to put the glue on the bottom just yet because then it'll just glue to your table and you don't want that. So you line it up. The glue is on this side. And if your building is kind of wide, you might have to do two on either side, but I think I can get away with maybe just one here. Yep, it can stand up. I did a good job. So, if you have a taller building, you're going to need a longer tab, okay, because it has to go a little bit more on here, otherwise it'll just kind of sink down. So, I'll just take this longer strip, give it a fold, put some glue on one side. And see if that works. Okay, so see, this isn't really working too well, so my tab has to be longer so I can get some new paper. And this is still wet, so I can just peel it off. Maybe this size will work. So it's kind of just trial and error. And we're just going to use scrap paper for this. And we'll see what works and what doesn't. Okay, so that works. So second time's the charm for that one. Okay, so now that you have made your houses or your buildings, what you want to think about is what else can you make to make this look more like a city. So I have black strips of paper. If you would like to use this, I'm going to make a road, and this is going to really help make it look more like a grid. So I'm putting a frame of glue around this black strip, and I'm going to line it up right in the center. So I could just make one road. If I want to, I could do crisscross and make it look like an intersection. So I could do two roads. And I just went to the collage cart and I found some yellow paper, and I'm just going to cut this into the lines that I need for the road. And I'm just going to put lines of glue down and then lay the yellow piece down. I think that's going to be a little easier because these pieces are kind of small. All right, and then you want to think of other things that you can include. So I'm going to include a tree. So I'm going to draw the trunk. Again, I just went to the collage card for this. So I'm going to draw this trunk like this. I'm going to cut that out. Okay, and I'm going to put a little glue on the bottom of my tree, and I'm going to put my trunk actually here. And this is going to be the back. This will be the front. Okay? So you want to keep all the little things that you're creating together. Okay, so once you have everything you want to make, you can start making it pop up. Other things that you can think about: making a car, making a bicycle, making mailboxes, making trash cans, whatever you want to make. So my last thing, I'm going to make a car here. Okay, so with everything that you want to make, you want to start creating tabs for these things to start popping up and become three-dimensional. Okay, so I have my tabs for my buildings, and so I could glue these down where I want the buildings. Okay, but you also want to make tabs for everything else that you made. So you might have to make really tiny baby tabs here. So I'm going to take a sheet of paper and I'm going to just make that really small. So you have to cut them to the size of whatever it is you created. So this is pretty small, and I'm going to try to make it fit for this little tree here. And you want to hold it for quite a while, 20 to 30 seconds, get that glue to be sticky. Now my car is kind of a long, fat shape, so I'm going to use kind of a fatter tab or thick. Okay, so now that everything has their tabs on it, I can start gluing it down where I want. So what I want you to see is I'm kind of placing things where I think I want them before I glue them down, just in case I want to move them around, because once they're glued, you can't move them. They're going to be sticky. Alright, so I'm going to put glue on the bottom of this, and I'm going to stick it up here in this red grid. And again, you want to hold it 20-30 seconds. Make sure that glue gets nice and sticky. If you notice that it's not sticking up, then you might have to make another tab that's maybe a little longer or a little thicker. And that's fine. I'm just going to glue this right on the back. Sometimes with taller buildings, it's a little harder for them to stick. Okay, so what I want you to notice is I've made a 3D map city that is built on a grid. Each grid has something in it, or each square of the grid has something in it to make it look nice and full, so it looks more like people actually live there and it's a real city. So this is how we make our three-dimensional map.